What's up, guys? My name is Bryan Carreto, and on this channel, I teach you accounting, audit, and everything it takes to be an awesome CPA. Today, I'm going to talk about why did I go into accounting, or what made me go into accounting, what made me want to become a CPA, and I'm going to start this video off by saying it was absolute, to begin with, it was absolute luck why I became a CPA, and let me explain why. So if you know this or you don't know this or you're new to the channel, in high school, I was not a very good student at all. I barely graduated high school, to be completely honest with you guys. I graduated, I think, with like a 2.3 GPA. Barely got by. I played soccer, and I liked just having fun and playing soccer and doing certain things. So yeah, school was not on my list of priorities at the time, unfortunately. So when I graduated high school, although I was like an okay soccer player, I was pretty good at, to say the least. It wasn't going to be something I was going to be a professional at, just to kind of be completely frank. I kind of knew when I started playing a little bit upper levels of soccer, I knew that, hey, yeah, these guys are like complete aliens and they're just amazingly good compared to what I can do with the ball. So yeah, this is not going to happen long term. So my dad pretty much told me, he's like, hey man, what do you plan to do, dude? Like, what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, all right, fine. He's like, yeah, I come from a Mexican background. Both my parents are Mexican. My mom was actually born in Mexico. And my dad told me, he said, well, you are going to pay rent or you're going to go to college. He's like, I'll help you out, man. I'll help you out in the sense that, you can stay here and you can live here as long as you need. But if you're building a career for yourself, if you're not, you're going to pay rent, man. Like, this is not going to be like, it's not going to be some place where you just live and you're just hanging out watching, TV or hanging out with your friends. Like, you need to be working on something. And in that aspect, it's funny how I'm really thankful to my parents because they provided me such a good foundation, and they were able to, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in if I didn't have the family I have. So, that being said, I think my dad really pushed me to kind of get my stuff together and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to pay rent. So I ended up going to like my local community college, and it was funny because at the time I remember a person told me, Bryan, you're not dumb, but like you need to like now focus, like all that energy you put into like becoming a good soccer player, put that into school now. Like, school is your soccer. And I was like, I could do that. I could get down with that. Like, I think that makes sense. Like, okay, school is now my new soccer. Let's do that. So I literally did that. Like, I have a very, very addictive personality. So whatever I do, I do. And with that, I end up treating school like my new soccer. So I ended up studying super hard. And then, mind you, it's funny, I got a job at Chipotle, which I ended up working at for 4 to 5 years, my whole undergrad before I became like a CPA and started working at a big firm. I rolled burritos, like literally only 2 jobs I've ever had. So I worked at Chipotle, got a job at Chipotle, started my career at this community college. Again, I did very well. And this is where it's funny how I said luck, but a lot of it was also me putting in the work day in and day out, because by the time I took my first accounting class, I was maybe 6 months into, I guess, my community college career. And believe me when I tell you, I was on it, man. Like, I had literally like no friends during the time. Like, I was just working, studying, doing my thing, driving to school, coming back, going to work, rolling burritos, studying, going to work. That was my life. Like, I lived in the library because like I just became this whole new person. And I just told myself that, it's kind of sad to admit this, but I think a big thing that happened to me too was early on in my community college career, I noticed that I don't think community colleges are bad. I just feel like a lot of people that maybe go there are kind of just directionless. They don't really know what they want to do. A lot of them are just going to school to say they're doing something. And I kind of started seeing that early on, even 10 years ago. I just sensed that a lot of people that were going there were just going there to say they're going to school to kind of check a box. And I didn't really want to associate myself with those people. Again, I'm not saying they're bad people as a human being. They weren't the type of people I wanted to be around. So I feel like that's why I kind of isolated myself during that time, which was really good too, because I think it helped me learn to be alone in a sense. Even now as an older dude, I think those years really forged the person that I became. And when I graduated high school when I was 17 years old. So mind you, I was like 17, 18 at the time. So I was a very young guy. And with that, I end up doing really well, and I take my first accounting class. And with my first accounting class, the professor, I remember I took my first exam. And she pulled me aside after class, and thankfully, I don't know what happened, but I did so well. I got a perfect score on the exam. She pulled me aside after class, and she told me, "Hey, Bryan, like you did really well in the exam." I'm like, "Hey, thanks. I've studied really hard." And she's like, "Do you like accounting?" And I'm like, dude, believe it or not, like it's kind of like the first thing like I've ever been good at from an academic perspective in my entire life. Like no one's ever told me I'm really good at anything other than kicking a ball. So she's like, you should maybe think about going down, like, do you know what a CPA is? And at the time, I swear to you, I had never, like I had heard like accountant and IRS and stuff like that, but like I didn't even know what the concept of like a CPA was. Like I didn't even know what that is. So I was like, no, I don't really know what the CPA is, but she's like, you should really look into it and you should think about it. I think you'd be great with your personality and coupling that with the technical skills. She's like, I think you could go very far in this career. And I don't know why, and I can't tell you, and it's funny how I get like kind of emotional about it or weird about it till this day, like 12 years later. But I look back at that and I can't help to feel a sense of like gratitude and just like a pivotal moment in my life that absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. Because I remember driving home. I grew up in SoCal, so like I was on the 210 freeway in Claremont, and going home from Chaffey College, and I'm driving home in my Cobalt, my Chevy Cobalt. Oh yeah, this is so funny. And I clearly remember like on the 210 freeway driving home and thinking, man, no one's ever told me I'm good at anything other than kicking a ball. Maybe it's time. Maybe this is a sign. Call it God, the universe. And I got home and I remember telling my parents, like, hey, like someone told me something really strange today. And they're like, yeah, okay, what? I was like, hey, they told me about maybe I'd be a good CPA. And luckily my dad was a military guy, and he was a welder after the military, so he's always been like a tradesman. My mom also, barbershop and beauty salon and all that good stuff. So like my parents were tradesmen in a way and like very entrepreneurial in a sense. So with that, I said, they're like, yeah, man, it's a good trade. Like they do taxes and stuff like that. So that's all he said. So I was like, okay, cool. Like maybe I could do that. And I went to school the next day. I changed my major, and that's literally how I kind of started down the CPA route, or how I got into accounting. And then once I got into it, especially after, and thankfully I transferred really quickly out of my community college. So I got out of there as soon as possible, transferred to my university, and I met a whole new group of people where I joined Beta Alpha Psi. I joined my local accounting clubs, and I started looking at the career growth, and I was like, wow, okay. Like then I started looking to I got the concept of public accounting. Like I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know. I remember being a junior. I remember being 1 year away from graduating and not knowing what a public accounting firm was, literally. So I think joining all these clubs helped me out. It helped me really understand what I can do. And I started looking at the career growth, and I'm like, wow, okay, man, I can make 6 figures, in pretty soon. That's crazy. Okay, I didn't even know you do that. I started looking at the stability of the career. I started looking at how much accountants were needed. I started looking at what I can do with this CPA license, what I can do with the amount of things that I learned, the options that I have. I started trying to network with other CPAs, learning what they did, understanding kind of the ins and outs of their job and their responsibilities. And it sounded really good to me. And then the last thing, I met a partner. He had his own firm, and I just thought wow. And he had worked at a big firm his whole career, and he opened up his own shop. He was doing really well, and I met other individuals that were CFOs at companies and controllers, and I'm like, wow. All these people kind of had the same baseline foundation their first 5-10 years in their career, and they really took it off, and they were able to, again, maybe they weren't filthy rich or whatever, but I think they provided a certain level of stability that I wanted, that I looked for. And I started learning and thinking, you know what, if I play my cards right, by the time I'm 30, I can be at a point where I'm financially secure. I own a rental property. I do certain things, and it's funny how I got there. It's so crazy to me how I started having these thoughts when I was 21 years old, when I was about to graduate from college and joined this public accounting firm. And I started having all these things, and that's really how I got into it. It wasn't that, my parents didn't go to college. I didn't really have anyone to tell me or guide me down this route. It really was just sheer chance and I guess destiny in a way. I never in a million years thought I would have a YouTube channel talking about teaching people accounting, audit, and CPA stuff. I never thought I would have the career that I ended up having. And it's so funny how even at my stage in my career, being a director at my level, I still have so much to go, man. Like I still literally have another 35 years of working to go. So like that's like a whole other lifetime in and of itself. So I'm so excited for what's to come. But in short, like, yeah, that's really why I became a CPA. It was really putting the work in day out, and just good things happen. And till this day, I firmly believe that. I've never met someone ever in my life that has dedicated their entire being, their entire sense of being to a purpose, to something that they want, so they wholeheartedly put a goal about and didn't achieve it. And at the time, it's funny how it's funny how kind of life works that way sometimes, because even though maybe you don't have it all figured out right now, maybe you don't understand what you necessarily want to do, but through putting the work in, through setting some goal, you start the process, you start putting in the work, and then all of a sudden kind of opportunities come your way, or things pop up, or things happen, and then you end up just kind of like I don't want to say figuring it out on the way, but just taking these opportunities as they come. But those opportunities would have never come if you didn't put the work in the first place. I firmly believe in the concept of you reap what you sow. And especially if you're young, if you're putting in the work, if you're studying hard, if you're doing what you got to do, maybe you start down the CPA route, and maybe you go down that route, you put your time in, and you're like, hey, you become such a well-rounded individual, such a well-rounded professional, that other opportunities come your way to maybe get into operations, to maybe open up your own firm, to maybe do so many different things with the baseline foundation that you learned. But those opportunities would have never come to you if you didn't put the work in the first place. So all that being said, why I got into accounting, I still ask myself every day why, but it really was fate, opportunity, and a lot of hard work. If you found value in this video, make sure to smash the like button below. Till next time, peace.